Hey guys, welcome to the Podfathers Talk. I'm your host, MD, the Money Dad, and I'm here with my co host, Louis Romero. And again, welcome to episode one. So we're excited about this. Remember, your life will either be a warning sign or an example to people. So, Louis, let's just jump right in there with that kind of tag that we have, right? Your life will either be a warning sign or an example to people. Think about that. Has your life always? I know since like we're talking about since 2020, your life has changed a lot, right? Now married with kids, and we'll jump into that. But like before 2020, was your life always a great example to people, or was it a warning sign, a mix of both? Because I feel like my life was, there's times and seasons for everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can definitely say that from 2010 to about 2020, my life was a warning to people in different aspects. If we speak about just spiritual walk and school, career wise, there were so many different things that now that I look back, I'm glad I'm not there anymore.
Yeah,
But it helped me grow as an individual. The reason that we have the level of success today, my wife and I in the business, is not just out of the blue. Is from personal experience and just every single time we felt at well I felt at something,
yeah,
I just grew from it, and just realizing that you're not alone. But the best thing that I learned, it was how to depend on God.
really. Okay,
um, I think that I call it the decade that I was in the desert. God just was allowing me to make my own decisions, and He still does. But now I take into consideration when I pray and I ask, and He delivers and He guides me. So obviously, like you said, 2020 was a turning point for my life in
yeah,
every aspect. I do not disregard like I said, that decade, because that decade was necessary for the person I became in my, in 2020. And I'm still growing, obviously, but just as a little bit, of the question you asked. But I got to ask you, because you've been in the business in Primerica since you were 18. You've never
yeah,
really had a different job. You've always been in business for yourself. You and your wife, from high school to business.
yeah.
um, how would you say that, do you feel like, the last, I guess, 18 years, have they been a, a life of example, or like you say, a warning?
Yeah, I always say I think a mix of both. And it's because like you said, you got to make your own mistakes sometimes. I think if we could always learn from other people's mistakes, our life would be a lot easier, right? Because I don't know about you, but my parents told me to not do a lot of stuff, and I still felt like, I don't believe them. Let me go do it anyways, right? It's the same thing in business. When I jumped in business,
Yeah.
my mentor was like, "Do this, do this, do this. You'll have success." And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds good." And then I would probably do some of it, but then I would do a little bit of my own way. And what's crazy is I think again, if you have children, like we have children now, right? It's like sometimes people do have to make their own mistakes so they can learn, because the experience is not always going to be the same as everyone else's. But starting a business at 18, I think the great thing that happened for me, and I think that's why God put me in business at 18, was I was still open to learn so much more. Like I knew I had what it takes to be successful. I just didn't know what to do to be successful. So God put me in the right place at the right time. I was open enough to choose it, and kind of just go from there. I did make a lot of mistakes in business, but those mistakes, again, I learned from them, got better, right? And then me and you connected early on in business, right? We were both like what, 19 at the time, if I remember, 19,
Right,
20.
right.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like, me and you were both working in life insurance and investments, right? You were doing well, I was doing well, right? And then kind of at that point, I think you decided to like things were just got crazy in life, and you decided to go back to school, right?
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about that, because I want to introduce our listeners to both of us, and just let them know that hey, we don't have all the answers. The reason we started this, the Podfathers, was to have a conversation with two great friends that we realize we don't know everything about everything, and we're constantly learning, but we've also learned a lot in a short period of time, and we've been blessed to have so many great people around us that have spoken into our lives, that we might be able to share some information with them, that they don't have to go through the heartaches, they don't have to go through all the craziness, and by the time they're our age, they can be 2 to 3 times as farther, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, what happened?
You know, it's life is life. Life is gonna be lifing, right? And it you don't if how do you view life? You need to ask yourself that question. I don't know. It doesn't matter what age you're at. I believe that the biggest one of the things that helps me the most is when I go inside and I ask questions to myself. For example, why do I make the decisions do I make today? Do you view life as another checklist? Because people try to put a time frame on when you should have completed things. For example, you go into business, and in Primerica, for example, and we talk about, within how fast do you want to get to regional vice president? Because the whole object of kept coming into Primerica, yes, part-time money is great, but when you learn that the freedom part, the freedom of building a business and the distribution part of Primerica, that's really where freedom is at. When I, like you stated, when I was 19 years old, I didn't appreciate that opportunity. I really didn't encapsulate like what it meant to go into business, and I didn't have the mindset. And that's okay, right? So for in 2 years should you be regional vice president, or 5 years, however long it takes you, as long as by the time you get there, you're prepared to lead the people that are before you, because it is a responsibility. I, like you stated, I did Primerica for 2 years, decided to go back to school. It was just a route that at that point in time, it made sense for me. And it like I said, it helped me mature. What college taught me was how to keep a commitment,
Okay.
how to make sure that I finish something. In my life, I've always said, like, I think we said this quote a lot, is there's the world is full of great starters, it needs more finishers. My regret when I left Primerica, because I didn't think I was going to come back, I stayed as a client, but I didn't think I was going to come back into the business. It was my regret was I never finished through.
Yeah.
And I'm a great finisher. I do not like leaving tasks halfway through. And I mean, I partied all the way through, So
Yeah.
it was
I know.
not like, it's just like, no, I'm just joking. He knows. But what I'm trying to tell you is I went back to school, finished my degrees. I was the first one in my family to do that. And I'm very blessed and fortunate. And I couldn't have done it without my family. I mean,
Yeah.
my parents, my siblings, they just supported me. They never, I mean, there's a crazy story. We were in midterms my junior year, and I had a nervous breakdown in the library. But it just showed me who was there for me and who I can count on. When I finished university, went about my business, did the careers and stuff, and back in the day, so we said, the right things to do. It's just, when you pray to God, and I will always throw it back to God. When you pray to him, he'll answer you. Sometimes we don't like the answers that he gives us, but like I said, once you step back and you look at your life, you're like, man, that was a turning point. Like, he saw what I didn't see.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in 2020. I thought that, that decade it has a lot that I can. If I started talking, I'll never be quiet. I mean, I look at the conversation we had. There were so many different points. So I even forgot what the original question was.
Yeah.
It's just I know that it that needed to happen for me to be who I am today. And like you said, right? Like if you think about the last 18 years, you've been successful, independent. But now we're at a different point in life. Even though our mentor, who you've named, David Farmer, he's definitely always encouraged us to build massive businesses so we can be independent. We don't have to show up, or we can if we want to, right? But think about you, like, how many people, and I mean, I don't mean to ruffle any feathers, but how many people would be envious of the life you've lived, that from high school you went into business, you became successful in your own way. Now, obviously, you're taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
But what would you say for 18 years of not having a boss, of being able, to take the vacations you wanted to? You never had to ask permission to be off. Like when your daughters were born, I remember, because I came back into business, how, you did what you wanted. And that's freedom.
Yeah.
Like, obviously now we're searching a different freedom, but what would you say to an 18-year-old that maybe doesn't have all the answers? What would you tell them?
I think a lot of people today, what they're doing is they're trying to follow their passion. But I tell you, you can't really find what your passion is until you try a lot of different things, right? Like I think the world of social media has shown that people, like, if you're not 22 years old driving a Ferrari, you're in trouble. And I tell people, like, me and you grew up, we were like the last group of people, I think, that, like, if you didn't go to college, it was looked down upon. Like, it was, your parents were kind of embarrassed, like, hey, what's your son doing, right? Mijo, he's working. It's like, it's embarrassing to say he was working. It's better to say he was in college.
Right.
Today, like, it's like 50-50. You can go to college, you cannot. It's not really hammered as much.
Yeah.
Back then, an entrepreneur was like something people said because you wanted to put a good title to not having a job, you know?
Right.
So in the early 2000s, 2007, when I started a business, it was not a cool thing to go into business. People talk about it all the time today, how start a business. It was not talked about like that, just 20 years ago. So today it's a different world. So I would tell the 18-year-old, like, one is you're in a world where people accept business a lot more. But number two is like, go see what you like to do. Also, see what you're gifted in. I do believe God gives people gifts, and there's things that you're probably naturally better at than most people. Um, Find a mentor, and you're going to probably have different mentors in different parts of your life. But ultimately, just realize that you're going to have to work. I think if you want to run a business, you're going to work harder than any employee because you don't, like, this right now that we're open another office right together. You don't clock out at 5. You can, but if you close your doors, then your business is closed. Versus an employee, you kind of just get paid to show up, do your hours, and do your job and leave. As a business owner, if you're about to close at 5, let's say you open a restaurant and the whole family's coming in, a smart business owner would reopen the kitchen, right? Take that family in, even if it's 4:49, because it's about making money. It's about
Right.
making a profit. So just realizing that at 18 years old, you're going to work hard no matter where you go. Do you want to work hard for yourself or do you want to work hard for other people? And then, by the way, let me make this clear. I'm not against having a job. I always tell people, if you want to go get a job, see what it's like, and try it. Some people are okay with the 9 to 5. Such we have a lot of clients that make 2, 3, 400 grand a year, salary. Like
Right.
they do well. Hey, if you're okay with that, then go do it. Right? I think me and you, we have a different understanding than most people. Like some people are like, oh, like extreme. Everyone should run a business, or some people are like, oh, having a job is horrible. It's like, well, it might be horrible for you, but it might be great for someone else.
Right.
So I think you need to find out what kind of life do you want to live, and then re-engineer that, right? So if you want to be free, if you want to have money, you want to have time, and you want to be able to pass something on to your family, then a job's probably not going to do that.
Right.
But if you want to be able to get home at 5 o'clock every night, have your weekends off, and then get a job.
Right.
So it just depends, man. But I want to pick up where me and you kind of left off of just in 2000. I don't even know. I think around 2009 is whenever you decided to go back to school.
10.
2010, yeah. So and like you said, you had a life of let's just call it a life of interesting activities, right? We'll jump into a couple more podcasts as we get deeper, but that happened, and I always tell people that stuff has to happen for some people in order for them to um, one experience, but also see like God never left you,
No.
right? We talked about that. God never left you. You might have walked and did a lot of other crazy things, but He was still like trying to get you back.
Right.
And then in 2020, tell them what happened in 2020. So you were in the restaurant business, right?
Mhm.
You were jumping around. You're a bartender, right? If I remember correctly, you were working in restaurants. You've always been a people person. Why did you come back into business knowing that? And I know it's about you wanted to finish something and stuff like that, but what else happened, right? If I remember correctly, you told me you kind of prayed,
Yeah.
right? So tell them that story. I think it'd be awesome.
So whenever you choose to listen, your life will change. One of the main reasons, if you read the Bible, the reason why certain characters in the Bible go through what they go through is because of the decisions that they make. It's God's instruction is there. And the first thing, worshiping God is to surrender, but and then it follows is to obey. Whenever you pray, like I said, sometimes when we pray for something, we think it's like God is not a genie. He's not gonna just poof the thing into your life. It's he works in whenever God works, we can't even comprehend every string that he pulls and every occurrence that he brings into lives, into different people. And that's exactly what happened. I just said, Lord, like I don't want to. And that time I was full transparency, I was drinking heavily. I was doing things that I was just in a very low point in my life in 20. And it was a summation of everything I had done since 2010. In 2018, like I was like, dang, like I felt depressed. 2019, I was just like praying. I was seeking God again, and it's like you said, God never left me. he was just waiting for me to reach to him, towards him, because he respects your decisions, because obviously that's what free will
Yeah.
is you can deny not hearing or talking to him. You can do that, but look at your life. Like, you have to be look at your life. And I knew about God and Jesus, and who my Jesus is right now. I call him my Jesus. And but I heard of him. I didn't know him, and I think that's the biggest difference. Is people will portray who God is to you, and when you believe them, you can probably be misinformed sometimes. I think you should always seek the truth and see who he is for you. And that's exactly what happened in 2019. I started getting closer to him, praying to him. And I just said towards the end of 2019, I said, Lord, I need a change in my life. And I was at a crossroad where I was like, okay, do I go back to school? And I was going to go back to medical school. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go back to school. And he knew in my heart when I pray that, I was like, okay, send me an opportunity, or I'm going back to um, to school.
Yeah.
Well, I started sending out applications to school, because I also believe that when you speak to God, he wants you to move. He doesn't want you to stay still all the time. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what I did. Okay, I said, I'm going to move towards this. And I started sending out the applications to see what school would take me, because I've been out of school for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was, in March, it was my birthday. It was like the right before the world shut down. It was
COVID.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, March 14th, man. We went that whole weekend. We went to different restaurants in Houston. Uh, b- Man, I met up with some clients from bartending that had a lot of money, because I used to bartend in the Galleria. So I
Yeah.
knew a
Yeah.
lot of wealthy people that would invite me over to their places, and we would. I mean, fun, right? What I consider fun
Party.
back then, party, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we partied hard, and then the world shut down. It was like the last hurrah for me. But a week into it, man, I was drinking like a couple of bottles of wine a day. It was bad.
Wow.
Yeah. And I woke up one day and I was like, how am I saying that I want to get closer to God and seeking him out and look at my life? And I said, Lord, I can't be here. I can't be in this house doing nothing, because I find ways to get myself in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as soon as I prayed that, it came from my heart, and I know God heard me. I was waiting on the answer for to see if I was going to go to medical school, and my mind was already made up that was the route. But I prayed, and then 9 seconds later, you called me. And I was like, and I'm telling you, I was trying the obedience route, right? So I was obeying God. There was no greater sign than you praying, and it's not coincidence. People would say, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, because it's at the right time. God will always answer at the right time, especially when something big is gonna, like that in life. And that's exactly what happened. Like, you called me and I said, oh man, Primerica, like Primerica is a great company, but whenever you make the decision that once you want to win big in this company, it takes commitment. It takes a big commitment. You got to say no to a lot of things and say yes to this for a certain period of time. Let me say that one more time: for a certain period of time, because it's not forever. And that's exactly what happened. I came back. My mindset was different. What the things I wanted in life were different. I was more prepared, and the main factor was I started to be obedient. And it's not like I gave up my freedom. I gained more once I started obeying.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people realize they think God is just trying to stop me from doing, like, when obedience is, I'm not trying, no fun, no more fun. And it's like, no, he's got a whole other way of doing life for you. And, and we're going to talk about this, right? Because we're believers. It's like, you can't outthink him. You
Right.
know what I mean? You got this plan for your life. Like Lewis had, in the world, to the world, you were having fun,
Mhm.
right? Even to Lewis at that moment, Lewis was having fun, right? His friends were having fun. He was having fun, a good time, right? But why did you have to keep doing this? Because we all know that bottle, it's you empty it, but you still need more,
Mhm.
right? No matter what you choose, no matter what we choose as our vice, right? They call it your vice.
Right.
Some of us it's working hard, some of us drugs, some of us alcohol, some of us pornography, right? All this different stuff. It's like, but nothing will fill that at all But like you said, like you always knew. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? You always knew God. Like it wasn't like in Jesus. It's not like you weren't an atheist, right?
Mhm.
You were agnostic or anything. You knew Jesus. So, but now it's like I'm gonna start like listening.
Right,
That was the point, right? Like so, whenever I called you, you were like, I don't want to, but you said, so I'll do it,
right,
and you jumped in. And right from the get go, you started having success back again. It's kind of like it all just clicked,
right.
right?
I've always been successful.
Yeah,
I've never everything in life that I've ever attempted just because I know my work ethic. Anything you do in life, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. It matters. It does matter. But what I mean is, whether you do not or not, it's still going to work out.
yeah,
Right?
because
If
cause and
you
effect. Yeah,
right. So if you put in the work, you're going to have success.
yeah,
There's
absolutely.
if you're putting in something, you're going to get a product. And obviously in life, if you put in the work, you're gonna be a success. But being successful and feeling empty is one thing, but being successful and feeling
Fulfilled.
fulfilled
Yeah,
is another thing.
yeah,
And then you got to go back and ask yourself, well, how do you define success? What
yeah,
is success, right? Is it money? Is it a bunch of properties, or is it life? Like, success can mean so many different things for different
yep.
people in different parts of their life. Um, what I do know is my identity. I'm a Christ follower first.
Mhm.
I'm a family man. I'm a husband. I'm a father,
Yeah,
and then I'm a son,
yeah,
right? And then a business owner.
yep,
That will never. It would never be out of order. Those things mean a lot to me. Now that I put those pillars in my life, I have a better foundation. So whenever the storms come, whenever the doubt comes, whenever people or things attack me, like, those things are so firm in my life, the things that I just mentioned, that it doesn't matter.
yep.
And so you got to define that. And I know when you're young, and people keep telling you how life should be, and or how you should be living your life. And as a young person, I encouraged you, like you said, like, seek.
Yeah.
It's to not believe only to believe. Like, you need to, yes, it takes that faith to take the first step, but also go find out for yourself. And I think that I'm joyful because of that.
Yeah.
And and probably I could have done it a different way, but the route that I took, I was hurting for some years, but now, oh, man, if you know my life,
Yeah.
and I'm not a billionaire yet, but we're on track. We'll
Yeah.
get
Yeah. I
there
know, right?
eventually, right? But to me, it's like my family, like what God has bestowed on, and I love it. I love it. But yeah, you just gotta define, like, what's important to you, and stop telling people. Stop. Don't allow people to think for you. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you should always go seek. That's the thing that helped me the most, and to kind of like cement who I am today.
Yeah. So it's not a bad idea. What Lewis is saying is not a bad idea to gather information, right?
Mm-mm,
Even ask for other people's opinions,
absolutely.
but don't take it like at fate. Like don't just take their opinion and run with it
Hmm.
because I don't know who said it. I think it was a gentleman named Alex Hermosi. He said, if you can't explain why you believe what you believe, it's not your belief. You just copied someone else's life. And although, what's crazy is like, I learned a lot from my parents. I learned stuff from you. I learned stuff from my wife, right? Mentors in business and all the areas. But at the same point in time, it's like that's good information, but you still got to go like you have to live your life.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to make a lot of mistakes. I always tell you, it doesn't mean because they're trying to save you, but I think it's okay to question it. Like when we first became a Christ follower, I know a lot of people didn't like this. Like I became a Christ follower, I got the Bible, started reading it, right? And I ended up buying a Quran, and people were like, "Why'd you buy that?" And I was like, "I don't know, I was gonna read this too." I thought you were a Christ follower. It's like, and again, I'm not telling you guys to go buy Quran, but what I'm saying is like, I just wanted to see what else is like. There's 2 or 3 million people that follow that faith.
Right.
Why? Right? You got other things, and then like I read it and I realized that, we had a lot more things in common than I thought, but we also have some lot of things differently. And again, not to get into different faiths, but it's just like I would never got bothered that people were bothered that I asked questions.
Right.
And again, I knew the truth. I knew the truth was Jesus. I knew that. It's just like I just wanted to see what else. Like, why are people thinking that way?
Yeah.
Right?
It's a rebellious nature. Think about, well, for me, I guess me and you, we're very very similar. Um, I question everything. I'm like, but why? It's not me trying to like. It just
I heard our kids are going to do the same thing.
which is I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope I pray to God that my kids don't just go the way people want them to go. I pray that in the good way, and they find their answers. And I want to take that back. It's the reason why I and I guess this is going towards Jesus. This talk. The reason I love Jesus the way I love him was because I know him, and to tell somebody that's never had an experience with him just to believe I don't know, it sometimes it's hard for them to understand that, but if you just believe, if you just allow him to go through that door, then you'll know who Jesus is. It's not because a pastor told you, or your mom or your dad. It's to experience Jesus is different than for someone to tell you who Jesus is. And I think that my life had to get a little rough. So I got to know Jesus. And now if anybody tries to tell me that he's not who he is, then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
to you be your own opinion, but I know who Jesus is because I know what he did for me. And the appreciation that I have for him, and he's my Lord and Savior, and I'll always proclaim him. Um, it's so important because, like you said, right? You went, you sought out the Quran to see what it said. I too, I was, man, when you talk about spiritual things like Santeria, you talk
Oh, yeah.
about New Age, you talk about Hinduism, you talk about Buddhism. Like I looked into all that.
Stoics. Yeah.
Because during those 10 years, I'm telling you, I was asking questions and being led to places that were not the most convenient things, right? And no disrespect to anyone that practices those things. But at the end of the day, the reason why I know Jesus is the way was because he was the only one who answered back.
Yeah.
He was the only one. Every other religion or faith, whether you want to call,
Yeah.
never did. Jesus did.
Yeah. It's crazy.
He got me from where I was at. And that's why I'm so cemented. I know his voice. I'm one of the sheep, if you want to call me.
No, and that's powerful because like what a lot of people, I guess, my understanding is he works everything for good, right?
Right?
Like even in crazy times, like I said, the life that you had the life that you went off and had what the world would consider fun. Now you look back at it and you're like, you're not disgusted with yourself at all. Right. And I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people are very shameful of their past. They don't even want to
Mm-mm.
share it, but that's the power in their testimony. They don't realize that there are so many people out there that are living a life that if you told your story, they'd be like, okay, my life is like, not that. I've heard some stories, right? You've heard some stories of people, and I'm just like, wow, you know. But also, let's talk about kind of what happened after 2020. So you ended up, getting involved in business with me, right? And we started working together. Things started taking off, right? You started making money in the business. That was easy for you because of the people that the work ethic. If you have a work ethic and people skills, you can do well anywhere, pretty much. Assuming you're honest too, right?
Right.
I think you were never a sketchy person.
No.
Like you were honest, and sometimes you're probably too honest with some people, right? But you're honest, and so you come into business, right? And then there's this girl on my team, right? Her name's Ophelia, right? And what's crazy is like I tell people all the time, and we got a few more minutes, so we'll tell their stories. Like a lot of times people they kept trying to talk to her on my team, right? And they always try to talk to her, but the first thing she asks is like, do you love Jesus, right? Because she's definitely a Christ follower. And some of them did, some of them didn't. I think some of them just said yes just because, right? And she probably asked them another question, they couldn't answer it.
Right.
So I think about 8 guys on that I knew try to date her, and not one of them ever single got a date. And then you get involved, and you saw her on a Zoom call, and you were like, "Who's that?" And you started talking to her, right? And a lot of people didn't think you could, get a date with her, let alone, now you're married and you guys got a kid, right? So let's kind of tell that story. So you got with her, right? And then I don't know how much we want to jump into it, but like, what happened after that? Like, how did you? I don't even know when you guys started talking, but I just found out you guys were together, and then what happened?
That life,
Yeah.
man, like you said, right? The first time I saw her, because everything was on Zoom whenever I came back to the business because of COVID. I saw her, she's beautiful, and I was like, who's that? And you're like, who, Ophelia? And it was like and man, when I started learning who she, because physically, when I saw her through the screen, I was like, dang, she's beautiful. But as once we started getting back together, I think you had like we went to your house and we were hanging out there, and I was asking her questions, and I'm gonna be honest, and she knows this, like my this is how the enemy attacked, that almost stopped us from getting together. I was like, I'm gonna break this girl
Yeah.
because I'm so screwed up. Like I have all these experiences, all these things, like life,
Yeah.
that I've been through. And she was so her parents had really, and God had really protected her from a lot of, the world,
Yeah.
and I didn't think I was good enough for her. And people telling me you're not going to be able to get a date from her. That in me, because I'm a rebel in nature, I was like, really, I was kind of wanted to prove people, or, I watched this, but then who would have, if I just did it out of malice, out of kind of like to shut people up,
Yeah. You
how
could
was
have
that
hurt
going to
her.
affect her, like and that's where, because God was growing me, that's why I was like, I can't do this to this young lady, like it's not fair for her, only
Yeah.
because people are telling me I can't, I'm gonna watch this. And so what ended up happening was, like, we were just friends for that first year, but then we went to Band of Brothers, and that's when God uncovered a lot in me. And he kind of like took that pain away, those scars that were in me, that I didn't know were in me. And then I just heard, you're good enough. And when I came back, because I'm telling you, it's all God. When we came back, she was the one. When we were driving back in, I got to the house. She calls me. She's like, "Hey, how was Band of Brothers?" She was the first one I spoke to, and before you knew it, Chris, it was 2 in the morning. I felt like I was back in high school talking to this girl, and I'm like, "Oh man, like, okay, God, is this confirmation? Like, I just need one more."
Yeah.
And so we came back Sunday from that trip, and then Monday we went to. I had a client appointment in Tascasita, and when I walked in, I was helping my clients. And then I was about to leave. I was putting my things away, and then they had a pastor visit them, and the lady just kept staring at me, and I was like, "Okay." And
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
like, "I gotta tell you something," and I'm like, "What's up?" She goes, "You know, God wants me to tell you that you already met your wife. She
Oh.
doesn't go to your church, and that everything you've prayed for, as far as family is concerned,
Yeah. Yeah.
He already allowed it. It's already yours.
Nice.
You're gonna marry this woman, you're gonna have a family, and God is gonna bless that union." And so I was like, God, is that Ophelia?
Yeah. For real, man. That's
So I
crazy.
continued talking to her, and before you knew it, we were together.
Yeah.
We started dating one another, and I think no, I don't think, I know from the get go, we made Christ our center.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of things in my background, a lot that many people would probably not like. She knows everything. And
Yeah.
because it was one of the advice somebody gave me, was like, let her know everything about your past so the enemy cannot use anything against you.
Yeah. And I've heard you say that a couple of times. So just to kind of speak it louder into the mic, would you tell people like for example, I think the world lies in my personal opinion. They tell people your past doesn't matter. But you understand, like it doesn't matter as far as if you want to change your life going forward, but it does matter to the person that you marry. So like if you can say that again, like when you say you told her everything because she was very innocent,
Hmm.
right? And we're older than her too, right? So we got years on her, and your life was the opposite.
Right?
So you sat down with her and you told her,
My
"This is
rap
my
sheet.
life before you." Yeah, yeah, like this is my life before you. Like you said, you left. Why did you leave nothing out? Why did you not like the real crazy things or things that you might have been embarrassed about, or maybe you weren't embarrassed about anything, right? Like why did you tell her everything?
Because when I gave my life back to Christ, I was a new man.
Yeah,
Um, and I believe that. And God always asks us not to look back.
yeah,
He says, "Don't look back." Like, I'm not going to look back at your past. Why are you looking back at your past? However, because I know that it's that phrase that people say, God knows your sins, yet calls you by your name. The enemy knows your name, but calls you by your sins. Yeah. And so I never wanted that power. I never want to give anybody power over my life. The only one that has power over my life is Jesus Christ. And so that's exactly why whenever I got that advice, I didn't even wait, because most people will get advice or like they'll ask a question like, hey, what do you think I should do about this?
Yeah.
And then they just don't say anything. I got the message that, that day I was dropping her off and I was like, hey, I got to tell you something. And we were in the car for like 3-4 hours. I'm telling her everything. We're crying. By the way, I'm a crybaby. You can judge. I'm like there, bawling my eyes out. She's bawling her eyes out, and I tell her everything about my past, who I dated, who I was with, different things that I'm not going to share here yet, but she knew everything. Yeah. And then after I told her everything, I said, because we had been dating for like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Imagine that. You're like impressing the person that you really find attractive, and then you're like having to tell them everything about your past. So I told her, I was like, look, you have every right to leave me. Right now.
So you gave her a way out?
Yes. I said, if you choose not to be with me because of my past, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
I was like, because you've been protected, you made the right, what the world considers the right choices. You're, oh my God, my wife is wonderful, And so I told her, I'm screwed up, I'm healing, I'm getting better, but this is my past.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay the price for the decisions I made in my past. And so when I said that, I didn't know what I was expecting. Thank God she was like, I'll give you a shot, So at the end of the day, she was like, no, I appreciate you telling me. And so I know that our relationship is so strong because we talk about everything till this day. Yeah. We're the biggest chismosos. We'll be in bed and be like, let me tell you what happened today. Yeah. It's like we spend the whole time because we're building the business together, but we get home and we still have things to talk about, So it's beautiful. I mean, there's certain things that we're working on, but it's when you walk in obedience and you do not wait to act on the advice you've been given, life becomes beautiful and it becomes an adventure. Yeah. Like, how do you see life? Like, if I was to ask you, like, because I know you've been asking me all the questions and about my life, but I gotta ask you, man, like, at what point did you realize life is an adventure? It's not a check off list, because like I said earlier, most people think that life is go to college, graduate, find the right person, marry that person, start your IRA, whatever you want to call.
Start saving.
Like, think about you. Like, what would you say? When did you find out that life is not a checklist, but found out life is an adventure?
I think, at a very young age, actually at 19, I got married, right? Me and Crystal have been together since we were 14. So I've always been, man, I don't know. I wanted to get married young. I tell people, and people go, what do you mean? I go, I don't know. You remember that show, Boy Meets World? I don't know if you ever saw it with Topanga. Right. And I wanted to get married. I was like, dude, like, just, I figured that's what you do. Right. And maybe I did treat it like a checklist, but I think everything changed for me in my life. As I started realizing my parents were getting older. I think, I don't know, a certain age or a certain time, but I think there's just been moments in my life that things have happened to me. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to be here forever. Right. So have fun. And again, you could have fun in the protection of God. Like I'm not talking about drinking, partying, and all that stuff. Right. Although me and you have done some of that stuff. Right. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is like doing it with good people. Doing it with people you can trust, right? We had a buddy, reach out to us like late at night last night, right? And we just, me and you, first thing we're like, did you call him? Did you call him, right? And it's because that's what it's about. It's about like being there for people when they need you, because they will do the same thing back, or just doing it and not expecting anything back. So I don't know. One of the quotes I always remember when people ask me questions like, what changed for you in life? I go, I don't really have I have a lot of different points. I don't have like one point where my life really pivoted. And I think I've been blessed. Me and you have talked about this a lot. I haven't seen a lot of wrongdoing in my life. And I think God has protected me from that, because I do have an attitude and I don't think it would go well, right? Like if I saw somebody getting racial profiled, if I saw somebody getting abused at church by older church members that are supposed to invite people to church, I've never seen any of that. Right. And I know me and you talk about that a lot. It's just, I've never seen, and then of course it happens. I can't, tell you how many stories I've heard of it, and I'm like, God, how come I haven't seen it? And I know God's probably like, because you would act a fool. You would actually make the
Mm,
situation worse, not better. You know how to, you got to learn how to control your emotions. Um, but the quote is, every man has two lives. The second one begins when he realizes he only has one.
come on.
And I think if I honestly could point to any big change in my life is when my brother passed away, which was about 2.5 years ago. I realized I was like, and he was 36 years old. He passed away of a stroke. And I tell people, it's like, dude, you never know, and not in a bad way. You know, I know a lot of people are like, I'm sorry. I go, yeah, yeah. His life changed everything for me, but in a good way. Um, no, now I got two kids and stuff like that, and I go, man, I love me and you love making money, right? We
Yep.
like making money. Money's fun. Our business is money, so we're
Right.
either making money, talking about money, helping people invest money. We're paying out life insurance claims that are two, three, five, $600,000, and then helping people invest that. So our life is all money,
Right.
but at the same point in time, it's like, to make all that money and not have freedom of time
Right.
would just be a killer, right? You would be locked in a prison, the door's open, but you're not walking out. So it's just like, it's a good question. I don't have a direct answer for you, but I would say that's also why I've kept, like, I don't keep like a journal, like Dear Diary or anything like that. I keep a, right, because my mentor, he asked me one time, I go, you ever keep like a journal or a pocketbook? He goes, no, I don't write in diaries, right? And I was like, whatever. I've kept them for years, and I look back at them and I'm like, dude, I forgot I was doing this at this time, right? Like, I was 19 years old the first time we went to like the Bahamas,
Right.
and I'm just like, it's crazy. But at least for me, I don't know if you grew up in a rich family, maybe you've been there. I didn't. So, man, let's wrap up kind of like where you're at now. So you so back to the story real quick. Ophelia, obviously you guys got married, right? Now you have a son. He's about to be one, right? Which is crazy, right? 1 years old already. She's probably already pregnant with the second one. We don't know. No, I don't know. But like you plan on having more for sure, right? God willing, those blessings come. How has being a father, because it's called the Pod Fathers. So let's wrap up with this. How has becoming a father, either one, helped you, because it's helped me love a lot more, but also, like, I don't know, do you see differently? Do you understand how much God loves you more right now that you understand? Because I don't think you can understand it till you have one. Like, that relationship didn't really come clear to me until I had my first kid. So, what changed for you, or
Mm.
what got more clear for you after you had your son?
Man, there's so many ways I could answer that question, but the way I'm going to answer is this way. I just think about whenever we're young and we think we know it all, and so it's so it's allowed me to love my parents more and to love God more. Um, just because whenever you think you know better, and they give you the advice or they just want to help you, you kind of ignore it. And and the thing is, the way that I see my son now, right? He's just happy to see me. Like, I walk into the house and it's like he's just joyful. Dad's home, and I get the opportunity to be his father, and I get to choose how I raise him, what values we want to instill in him. And and one thing is, like I said, he's always gonna know Jesus as his friend. And if mom and dad are always gonna have his back, but if mom and dad are not there and physically, his heavenly father's there. So he'll always know that. Um, but it's taught well, having my son has taught me more to be more compassionate. I'm already a compassionate person, but I didn't know that I could become more.
Yeah.
You always think that you reach a level and that's it, but
I have a
that's
dumb question. Well, how do you define compassion?
so I'm compassion to me is when you see somebody suffering or
Okay.
that's down, like, do you stop and help? Do you have compassion of your fellow brother and sister? Whereas before I was always in a hurry. What's next? What's next? What
Mm,
next? Yeah, I'd be like, I'll pray for you, and sorry. But this is to be honest, right?
yeah, 100%.
And I would, and if I could, if I had the time, I would stop and help and whatnot, or I would, call them and I would definitely help. But now it's how God sees us.
Yeah.
And so I'm not God, but the way, just he's giving me a glimpse of how he sees us, right? And
Yeah.
so I just think about, okay, he sees us this way. in a way. And so my son is helpless, right? He depends on me for everything, and sometimes I mean, how you gonna tell a 8-month-old like, hey, stop crying, like cry more
Yeah,
louder, right? It's like
exactly.
so you kind you're in there. Not that you're stuck, but you gotta in that moment. Okay, what can I do to fix this?
Yep.
So it's you're there. Your time is required.
Gotcha.
And I always knew I wanted to be a present father.
Yeah.
I don't want to just say to my wife, "Well, here's baby," and then I just walk away and be like, "Fix him," you know. No, like
Yeah.
if I'm there and then the situation arises, then I take the opportunity to help, like do what it needs to be done. So when I say compassionate, that's what I mean.
Hmm.
I may not be their father, but I know better. I know better, so I'll take the time, stop,
Yeah.
ask, get down to their level, and see how I can help. That has shifted a lot. The way that I love is different. I didn't know, like, this is the thing. It's like you think you know what love is. You
Yeah.
do not. Like once you my God, there's been days that I just want to go to sleep and my son just looks at me and wants to play. Like last night, he wouldn't stop talking. It was like 11:30 at night, and he was like, "Ah, ah, ah." I was like, go to sleep, son. And I was like, and then it's a reminder that God just going like, you wanted this. You prayed
Yeah.
for this. And in that moment, my tired, my whatever wanting to go to sleep, it stops. And I'm just like, okay, start playing with him. So those freaking phones are a big thing, right? But God's like, your son's over here playing with toys. You're here. Why are you not playing with him?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it put my phone away. And I love it just because it's teaching me to be in the moment and stop looking at people's lives through social media. I'm
That's
living my
good.
life, and then take the opportunity to spend that time with the people you say you love. If it's your parents, your nephews, your nieces, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, whatever who may be, take the damn time to just spend time with them, man, because those are moments, and those moments will eventually become memories, and time is a flicker before you know it. And we're not there yet, but I just think about, I don't want to have those regrets of saying, man, I didn't enjoy my son's childhood, because
Yep.
I'm enjoying it every single way. Like there's every day I get the opportunity to play with my son in the evenings when I get home from work. It's the biggest blessing. Every morning when he wakes up next to me and he just smiles, I know, because all I got to do is say good morning, and he's not hasn't even opened his eyes, and he's already smiling because his dad is saying good morning. It's just, it's
Yeah.
those moments I'm always gonna remember. He probably won't remember. I am. It matters to me. That's important to me, right? So yeah, that's what happened. I know this, it's a podcast for the both of us, but it's Chris's time to speak on that.
How my life changed. So I have two girls. I grew up just me and my brother. So I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So one is I've always been known as like a hard guy, and the people that know me, they know that I have love for pretty much everybody. It's just that I guess I was always really closed off. So like my daughters, they taught me that, man, because if you don't show, and again, I know it works for same. Like to me, kids are kids. They just want to be hugged. They want to be kissed. They want to be told, "I see you. I love you. You're
Hmm.
awesome. You're great." Like regardless of the boy or girl, you need to do it with all of them. In my personal opinion, I know a lot of people look at their sons and they're like, "Yeah, I'm trying to raise them to be tough." I'm like, "Yeah, that'll come later, man. Right now, like he just wants to hug." Actually, I'm my age. I still want my dad to hug me, right? So like, I don't understand that. Like, you can be. My dad was tough as hell on me. You can be tough as could be, and still love people, right?
Right.
Like so. My thing is, my daughters, they softened my heart like crazy, and what it came down for me is just like it made me come to the conclusion that they're going to they're going to try to look, hopefully they're either going to look for a man like me to marry, or they're going to try to say I don't want a man like that. Kind of like you have a son. I am proud, honestly. I hope my dad hears this. I'm proud if somebody says, "Man, you're just like your dad." That would be a compliment. That would literally
Amen.
be a compliment. And versus most men, they would never want to hear that in their life, right? Because my dad's changed a lot, right? My dad's like 16 years sober. If they would say I'm like the old him, probably not. It wouldn't really be a compliment. But now, so like my daughters, they're either going to look for a man that like I want a marriage like my parents, or I don't want a marriage like my parents. So it's like, what am I going to show them? So I think the understanding of slowing down, right? I have tea parties like once a day, right? And stuff like that. I think, and people sometimes they say, man, doesn't that kill you? I'm like, no, like it doesn't because they're happy. Like I don't know how to explain it. That's why I said I tell people I think having kids, uh, it's just one of the funnest adventures you can have. Talking about adventure, having
Mhm.
kids is one of the funnest adventures you can have because my daughter's so creative. Like she'll a toy's designed to like do something, right? And she'll do that with the toy, but then she'll bring another toy and mix it, and just to watch her play, I'm like, dang, how'd she get that smart? I think that's my wife's side. Um, but at the same point in time, I'm just like, it's just fun, man. It's fun watching them. And I think like, I wonder if God looks at that like us like that sometimes, like, I'm proud of you guys. I'm seeing what you're doing. You're learning
Mm.
and it's awesome. So let's wrap up this episode of the podcast. I wanted to do this so they can, our guests can kind of get a chance to introduce, we introduce ourselves to us. So kind of where we're at right now in business now is, we've done really well. We just opened a new office here in Houston. So if you're in the area and you are, you got great people skills, you're motivated. We are looking for a few people. We're going to license 100 new agents in the next couple months. So things are doing awesome. You can always reach out to us through email or on our podcast. Leave a comment in the podcast. We'll be more than happy to reach out to you guys if you're looking. But I think most importantly is just we're also in the finance and money. So we're going to talk a lot about that throughout the podcast. Me and Lewis, we agree about on almost everything, but there's some things that we kind of stay away from, not because we don't want to disagree. It's just because they're things that I think people need to talk about in their own personal life, not have someone else's opinion that they don't even know. Right. But I think we could all agree, like, man, being a father's fun, being a husband's fun. And I know not to condemn anybody on here, but if you've had a divorce or maybe you don't have a great relationship with your kids, man, it's not too late to fix it. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like your kids, I was blessed to have a great father, right? Maybe we'll talk about our dads next time, but even if he did mess up, him telling me he's sorry is just like, I'm like, wow, my dad actually said he's sorry, right? Like I don't know. It's just we got a lot to talk about over
Yeah.
the next few episodes.
And
man.
if I could say something is, I think by the way, I didn't want to do this. Like, he's been pressuring me for the past year. Like, hey, let's start something like this. And I'm doing it because we do like we're so different, but at the same time so alike. In the way, like he talked about, he stayed in the business, I left the business, I went a different route, the way that the decisions I made, right? But we're doing this. Mainly the reason why I'm doing this is to let people know, like, hey, no matter how screwed up you think you had and we're gonna dive deeper, right, into things. I am at least, and we're gonna have guests here. But the main reason is we want you to know something. It's if you're listening to us, whether you're a client already, a recruit, or work with us, business partners, just an individual, right? A stranger that's about to become our friend. We would just want you to know wherever you're in life, you're not alone. And we hope that through any stories we share or any anecdotes that we say, that maybe it relates to you. And we just want to let you guys know that you're one decision away from changing your life.
Yeah.
It just takes one decision and acting on that decision that'll make. If you think that you could do a 180 and your life you could get a different view of what your life could be like. So I'm doing this to share, yes, a part of my life, but also to find the people that want to make a change in their lives. That's the
Yep.
reason why Chris and I are doing this. It's not just, like, hey, listen to what we got to say. No, it's, hey, if you want to make a decision, you want something different in your life, we want you to know that we're humans, we're men, we're learning. If we don't have it all figured out, but what we do know is that we're going to find a way. And we're not alone. And we just want you to know that if you want to be part of this movement, because it is a movement, our whole goal with what we're doing with our office and our businesses, it's bigger than just making money.
Yeah.
You're going to see different aspects of our lives, but we just want to welcome you to reach out. And if you have any questions that you'd like for us to discuss on this podcast, then we would love that. We love, I know we would love ideas to discuss on it. And we're going to have guests here that we're going to have conversations with. You're also going to meet the people that have mentored Chris and I, like the people that their opinion weighs in whenever it's a decision-making time. So we just want to, I want to say that. I want to encourage anyone that wants to learn more about anything we speak about, reach out to us. We love talking, in case you haven't noticed, and we would love to put the spotlight on you as well. Okay, guys? But back to Chris.
Yeah, guys. And again, thanks for joining us on the first episode of the podcast. So we got a lot more to come, but at the same point in time, if you have any questions, you can put them. We'll be on YouTube, we'll be on Spotify, we'll on iTunes. We have a TikTok page, Instagram page, Facebook page. We'll definitely try to reach out, get all those questions answered for you guys. And if we don't have the answer, man, it's a great question because then we'll go seeking and trying to find it. So we talk about money, we talk about finance, we talk about being a dad. We say from diapers to deadlines. Man, and because as a man, there is a lot expected of you. But what's crazy is, in our opinion, with Christ, you can do it. You can do it, right? And you can have a peace beyond understanding. So when the world's falling apart, it's not falling apart; it's falling into place. So again, just thank you for joining us. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us in all those social medias, and we look forward to hearing from you guys soon into the next episode. God bless.
God bless you guys.